your favorite rapper's time, your favorite movie star's time, your favorite hater's time. And it's like that. Let's get into this. Let me ask you guys something. Was all of the people I had on live, whether they were random people involved or whether they were people I actually did work with, were they all right? That's what we got to ask ourselves. Let's break it down. Zabella Minx. Now, before we even got into the situation, she made comments about her experiences, and there were a lot of people saying that she wasn't telling the truth and other narratives around that. But when we did detailed research and we looked into it, she was telling the truth about most things, not all things. Now, since then, her and I have came to an understanding. I didn't know what her gripe was with Cleo, and I talked with Cleo about it. And one of the top things we said, we're going to be respectful to Cleo because that's how we move. And eventually, looking at the situation, she started piecing together what she experienced with what we knew and what I was saying, and she saw a different scene and angle. So we built some level of admiration and respect towards his mother together. It was a learning process. We did it. But the different things she talked about, there's no way I could be wrong. Why would people respond as they responded if she was wrong? Another person, Ashley, when she spoke on Geneva, if she wasn't right, then why would people respond as they responded? And they did respond. Geneva responded, went live with her. The people Zabella mentioned responded. Some of them responding openly on Twitter without admitting things. Some of them going live just to debunk things we mentioned on the channel, never debunking it, but actually just taking shots at character. They didn't deny it. They didn't deny their lifestyle. They didn't do any of that. They just tried to take shots. Now, thinking on that point, there were a lot of other things. And if you're on Patreon, I already released a video that had to do directly with the situations at hand, i.e. one of the situations being, I mentioned to my Patreons exactly how I got started. I mentioned to them what made me start the case. So if you're not on Patreon, you mentioned that video where I go into detail and I spoke about different things of exactly why I went into this case how I did. A lot of people asked me, I went into detail and told you exactly why. Some will hate it, some won't like it, some will disagree, but this is what we saw. This is what I saw. This is what I need clarification on. That's why I started doing the case. Another thing, I went live with Zabella twice. And you'll see part 2 is the part where we actually go into detail. Part 1, we were kind of scraping the surface. And part 3, we finished up the ideology. Was Queen Prodigy right? She made a lot of psychic level views on character, situations around people. Was she right? She spoke on the suspect, spoke on the situation, spoke on the fact that there were people around the mother that weren't savory, that didn't really behave how they cared. Now, back then, I'm going to say this. Miss Minx actually went into detail on seeing some of these people who were discussing, i.e. Genesis, in certain scenarios before the X situation. So you were spotted around affiliates before then. Now, I have someone telling me you allegedly had relationships with some of the people. I don't know this to be true. This is just what they're telling me. And this is the talk of what they got going on, aside from the talk of bashing character and stuff. And they always want to make someone seem crazy. I agree, Zabella. They want to make you seem crazy when you're telling a certain point of view and asking certain questions so they don't have to answer the question. How many times have you seen it in school when a student can't do the work? Don't they act up in the classroom? Yes or no? So are these people acting up on social media because they can't combat it with logic? Now, shout out to the woman in the comments. I don't know if your name's Joe Mommy. I didn't see J-O Mommy, something like that. You were trying to say that the fact a birth certificate and stuff was released should prove that she's the mother of Tentacion. How? How? If you're telling me they tested his DNA in, okay, do you have proof of that? Because that's not what these documents I'm looking at are saying. You see how people start to derive and uplift other narratives when there's no conclusion to anything we talked about? That's part of my problem. If you're going to go into that narrative, you might as well say, here's the proof that it was actually his baby. I mean, why not? You already brought out the fact of, oh, the discrepancy is she got a birth certificate. How many mothers got a birth certificate? And how many times could a stepfather even step up and put himself on there if he was around for the birth of the baby and not the real father? We've seen that before. Are you kidding me? That's never happened? That's not making sense. How many other men were tested? See, here's the problem. We're presuming to only see X's DNA tested, but say it did come back positive. How do I know they didn't test the DJ's or any other past person or any other present person that claims to be a friend and was more than that on the backside in actuality? How do I have proof of that? I don't. And you're saying no one owes proof. That's fine. But here's the thing. I said fraud Ocean's 11. Why did I say that? Why did 11 people link up to make something go through? You know why. It was because they were all getting paid. So if we were potentially speaking on something that had people question why certain people deserve paid, wouldn't that present a problem? Because you're going to speak about the money I'm going to get for free for me doing my part. That would present a problem. Because somebody's going to be missing their pay or miss out on the opportunity because someone spoke up a certain way. We've seen this normally. But with all these viewers I had, the viewers should not be denied. That's the thing. Each of them brings something special to the... So when you're playing Ocean's 11, we're playing Ocean's 3000 plus. Because I can tell you right now that there's so many people that brought narratives that I look back on at the very beginning, and it makes sense now. Zara's not the only one with that ability, it seems, to look critically and think critically about something they're looking at. And that's the thing. I had a lab tech that was right there, and they were like, no. It doesn't cost that much to do DNA tests and stuff like that. I agree with you. But that's why I'm not understanding the documents I'm reading, and that's why we asked her. Did she respond? Nope. What was her response? To try and big up Geneva. To big up Geneva and make Geneva seem big, when you've never said nothing respectful about her publicly ever. Ever. Even when I criticized her, she came out and spoke. And then I gave her respect. You've never even then said something. But when I'm mentioning she's more authentic than you, now you want to speak up. I guess authenticity needs to be verified through somebody else who's authentic because they made a certain decision you don't have the guts to make. Really? Very interesting. And you know what? I understand. If we're looking at all the people I've had up here that's spoken and all of it checks out, it does make a real shady appearance with the situation. Now, let me even say this. She doesn't even hide it. She puts it out, liar. Whatever she feels in her heart she lied about, that's what she feels. But at the end of the day, if you're going to link up like a crew just to do this, how manly or womanly are you? You need 11 plus people to set something up. Like, really? You couldn't do it on your own too? If you really didn't like someone, why didn't you do it on your own? But you got to involve all these different people just to get to a bag that you don't even deserve. That's what Ocean's 11, that's my mindset. A bunch of crooks linking up to get a bag they don't deserve. They want to take it because they want to play the Robin Hood narrative as why does this person have it? Because they don't deserve it. Again, it's all about perspective. The same people calling you crazy be the ones that be making the most craziest decisions. Ain't that true? They do the craziest things and want to justify it, but want to call you crazy because of your decisions not being aligned with theirs. But what if there were 11 plus people that aligned their mentalities? This would verify everything we learned from hearing what Zabella's had to say, what Ashley said, / I think her name was Amanda said. I had on another girl. Her name was Goddess, what she was saying. But I disagree with her narrative of Cleo. That I told her that openly, and we debated it. I told her why I didn't. I didn't just say, oh, she's fraud, she's saying this, oh, she's saying that, she's against it, oh, she has motive. I didn't go into those narratives. Oh, her character's this and that. I told her why. That's what they can't do, and that's how we know you're suspect. Doesn't that make sense? You don't get it yet? What Queen Prodigy said. Really? These people have been right in their own ways, and they've respectfully, each in their own ways, received criticism. They have. And it really makes you want to know what's happening. It really does. And I went into detail on exactly why. What evidence I took to it. I didn't just get up here and start saying it. I started asking questions. And when a person asks questions and doesn't follow orders, that's when people perceive them as a threat. But is that right? So to your BB-headed kid, I should just slap him in his head and tell him do what he's told? You would raise hell. You'd be like all over the place like, no, he didn't. No, he's not. Don't talk to my kid that way. But you can't see it for someone else's. Ultimately, it's because you don't care. You only care about yourself. See, selfishness, jealousy, all of these things, all of the above, it's all a motive somehow. And I think we've proved a lot of that. And as I get into more detail, you're going to see more and more how that becomes apparent. What are your thoughts on this? Were all my guests and viewers right at some point in time? Even opinions Chris A gave when he went live. It makes sense. It makes sense. Come on. We're all not confused. These were people that made preemptive views before they seen the picture. Now when the picture is blurry, people want to say, oh, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Does that really make sense? Not at all. Look critically at those around you. And if they don't show themselves, they automatically up front when they're criticizing lose all justification and respect. Show yourself and give your opinion. If you have truth behind it, stand behind your credit. All rights reserved.